What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about American Horror Story 1984, Episode 4, entitled True Killers. And just like every week before, we're going to be talking just in general about the episode because I don't want to break down everything that happens if you haven't already seen it. So make sure to listen to this first part, and then I'm going to tell you when I'm going to start getting into spoilers, and then you can go watch the episode for yourself if you haven't already. Come back and let's discuss it. So first, when it comes to this season, specifically this episode of this season, I can't be the only one who's sitting around thinking that nothing that happened in tonight's episode is all that shocking. I mean, we should have seen this coming from a mile off. I mean, literally right after the very first episode, it was kind of clear how this was shaping up, and the stuff that I've talked about in my videos since the first episode all the way until tonight seemingly all came true at this very moment. Okay guys, so I am going to be getting into spoilers here, so if you do not want to be spoiled, then make sure to go click off this video, come back after you've seen the episode. But let's just jump right into the spoilers with the biggest one. Margaret is the real Mr. Jingles killer. She framed him, and she did it because everybody was making fun of her. I mean, she's literally at this point a reverse Jason Voorhees. She took matters into her own hands, and not only was she the killer back in 1970, but now she's the killer here right now. And Mr. Jingles was put under shock therapy, and he was forced to believe that he was the one who killed all the kids. I mean, we saw this coming. Everything with Jonas, who they've completely forgotten about over the last couple episodes. I mean, seriously, where is this kid? I know it's going to be a big story later on this season, which, to be fair, they really need something because they're really steamrolling through all of these plot points that felt like it was going to take up more than just half the season, but here's where we are. Anyway, we have Margaret at the end of the episode, and I want to break down everything that happens, but everyone saw this coming ever since Jonas gave his little flashback, or maybe even before that. I mean, she is a crazy person. Another thing that they tried to shock us with was the very end of the episode and the fact that the Night Stalker got killed by Mr. Jingles in their little brawl that we saw in the preview. Of course, that couldn't possibly happen, and we knew it wasn't going to happen because we know that he was in American Horror Story Hotel, a much older version of him. Now, how he dies probably isn't the main focus of this series, but just knowing that he wasn't going to die here and now, it wasn't that shocking to see him come back. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happened in this episode that was interesting, and I still hold the idea that this season is miles above the quality of last season. No, I liked American Horror Story Apocalypse. I liked Cult. I probably like Roanoke more than you guys do. Probably I like Hotel a little bit less so than everybody, besides a couple episodes. But that's really neither here nor there. The point is this season, the first 4 episodes have been relatively strong. It didn't need to shock me in order to keep my interest because I'm invested in these characters and everything that's going on, and they have really proven to me that having an entire season, or at least half a season, take place over the course of like literally a day, it's interesting, and I'm happy that they've done that. So overall, it was a good episode. I wasn't anticipating any real shocking moments left that this series could throw at us, especially with the stuff that they've been doing with these plot points. And maybe because of that, I like the episode a little bit better than some people might have. But I really do believe that they're going to have to find a little bit of momentum if they want this season to continue strongly. I don't want to get to episode 6 and beyond and think that, man, they really lost steam here after all the stuff that was set up in the first 5 episodes was over and done with, and everything that they're going to do with Jonas, the hitchhikers, this whole concept of ghosts that can't go anywhere. I mean, how is all of this going to play out? That has to be interesting too, and they have done nothing to really plant the seeds besides Jonas that they've forgotten about over the last couple of episodes. So with all that being said, yeah, I like the episode. I'm liking the energy that we're getting with this season thus far, but they need to do something interesting in the next episode. They need to set up what the rest of the season is going to be next week, and I really hope they do. Fingers are still crossed. So with all that being said, let's break down what happened in this episode and talk about what we liked and what we didn't like specifically. The episode begins with a title card insinuating that then is sometime in the recent past. One of the things I said in my last review was it was very clear that Montana was going after Brooke and using the Night Stalker to do it. And a lot of people came at me in the comment section and said, they never said that. She might be going after Birdie. She might be going after Margaret. She might be doing something else that we are not really privy to. And look, that didn't really even make sense. The whole concept of showing Brooke's wedding last summer and the fact that her fiance killed her best man because she was sleeping with him, I'm not even sure that's really true. And we're going to break that down probably in the next episode. But the writing was on the wall to connect those two things, and you didn't need Montana to tell everybody, oh, I need you to kill Brooke. I need you to kill Brooke. I mean, we already knew that was coming. Again, one of those things that wasn't entirely shocking. Of course, it was a little bit interesting to explore Montana's relationship with the Night Stalker because Billie Lourd is literally killing it this entire season. I love her character. I really hope that she isn't taken away after the course of like literally the 5th episode and we're just following Brooke and all the other survivors. I mean, honestly, that would be a big bummer because just having Billie Lourd over the course of the last couple seasons and having her be a main focus has always been an upkick for the series, and I hope she stays there. And then again, the episode kind of segues into Chet, Trevor, and Xavier trying to figure out how to help Chet. They have this humorous moment where they're going to give him the adrenaline shot and they're not entirely sure whether that would help him, but I mean, he was dying anyway. So that was one of the best things. And like I said in my last review, I just want to see more, or I wanted to see more of Xavier and Trevor's chemistry because I really like what they do with those characters. But literally after tonight, we lost one of our best characters this entire season, and I'm wondering how that's going to play out the rest of the season. When Margaret goes out of her way to kill off Trevor when he goes to help her after she thinks she has killed off Mr. Jingles. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's go over what else happened in this episode before we get there. So as the episode progressed, we got what we saw in the preview with Xavier going to find Birdie. I mean, can I just say, why did they play off Birdie? Why did they introduce her at all if only just to have her be a victim? She played absolutely no role in the broader scope of this story, and she was only there to help make sure that Xavier could run into Mr. Jingles and then survive the encounter. Now, don't get me wrong, I love what they did with that. I mean, I don't really like how they took out Birdie. I think it was nice of Xavier to take her out in the way that he did, and, you know, like kind of a mercy killing. But having Mr. Jingles literally put Xavier into the big oven, I mean, that's brutal. I feel like that's one of the most brutal things that we've ever seen from American Horror Story, and I was totally having it. I mean, I was watching it with my dad even, and he was sitting there saying, man, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I mean, this show is brutal. I mean, I feel like this season is really kind of showcasing just how brutal American Horror Story has always been, and because I am who I am, I've been a fan ever since the very beginning, I don't really see it as much. I love horror movies and stuff like this. And, you know, I understand it's brutal and it's not really supposed to be taken seriously, so I don't really find it that disturbing. But you got to admit that putting a guy in an oven is pretty dang disturbing, and I can only see it from everybody else's reaction. I mean, I'm used to it at this point. So as the episode progressed, we had Brooke waking up after where Rita took her. She gets out and she ends up running around, almost runs into a couple of traps, and it makes me wonder, or it made me wonder, who was setting these traps and for what reasons, but they really just glossed over that as well. This entire episode was just glossing over a lot of stuff they've built up over the course of the last 3 episodes just to kind of move the story along so we can get to the end of this story by the end of the next episode. And that was really one of the weird things to me. Like, when did Rita have time to set up all of this stuff? And only just to kind of make sure that Mr. Jingles might go out of his way to kill someone who's already trapped, or maybe would spare them because there's no thrill in that hunt. And we didn't even get an answer to that question. I mean, they're setting something up at the end of the episode with Rita and maybe a new partnership with the Night Stalker, but we're going to have to wait to see how that pans out. Anyway, it is Brooke falling into one of Rita's traps that ends up having that head-to-head match with the Night Stalker and Mr. Jingles. As Montana is the very first person who finds Brooke, she goes and gets the Night Stalker, and then Mr. Jingles literally comes out of nowhere to start the fight, and then he kills the Night Stalker, which I have to admit was kind of a shocking concept. But as I said at the beginning of this video, the fact that we know that we've seen an older version of this character in the mythos of American Horror Story before in American Horror Story Hotel, I mean, you knew he wasn't going to stay dead. And he's been talking about speaking to the devil, and we know everything from American Horror Story Apocalypse, and we know that those seasons are all connected to each other. So yeah, we all knew he was going to come back, and that was going to be the last thing that we saw in this episode. The writing was on the wall, and that's what I'm saying. Nothing about this episode was overly shocking. I mean, they've literally played all the cards they can play with this story, so I have to admit, I'm really glad that they're done with this story after the next episode, because they don't really have much left that they can do to shock the people who are watching it and the fans who have been watching the series ever since the very beginning. As the episode progresses, one of the things that we do see, and one of the best things about the episode, at least in my opinion, was the interactions between Mr. Jingles and Margaret. The idea that these two had some kind of a relationship, and she took extreme advantage of this guy who was kind of a social outcast and really out of his element in 1970, and pinned everything on him after she decided to murder everyone literally just for making fun of her. And this woman thinks that she worships God. It would be really interesting to see her get to a point where she is talking to the Night Stalker a little bit more and realizes that maybe she worships the guy downstairs and not the guy upstairs, but that might be wishful thinking on my part, because I honestly don't believe that she is going to survive this entire ordeal. But one of the reasons I love the scenes because it felt like a lot more reminiscent of an interaction between Jason and his mother. More specifically, it felt like an interaction between Jason and his mother with what they did in Freddy vs. Jason all the way back in 2003. I mean, getting dialogue between them where the big hulking monster brooding guy doesn't really say much, but the woman, the small frail woman, has so much power over this guy and has so much authority over what he does and what he is responsible for. I really love that situation, and you know what? Go down to the comment section below if you're listening to this, because I know somebody said that his name, the guy, like what his real name is, Mr. Jingles, is an anagram for Jason Voorhees, and I haven't really seen that anywhere else, so I thought that was really interesting. I thought I would just, throw that out there for anyone else who wants to go check that. I don't know if it's true because I'm not really looking at the name right now, but tell me in the comment section if that is right. So even though I did really like that scene, it led to one of the biggest shocks in the entire episode, and something that really bums me out is that Margaret kills Trevor. And I guess it makes sense that Trevor wasn't really going to survive the night, but he was one of my favorites of this season, and not really having him around anymore is kind of depressing. So we're going to have to wait and see how that pans out, whether he's going to come back in some way, shape, or form, maybe in a flashback, maybe he's going to be a ghost like Jonas, we're not entirely sure. But right now, that is the most depressing, shocking thing that happened in this episode, and I'm a little bit bummed about it, specifically because we're not going to have Xavier and Trevor time anymore that we got with last episode and the beginning of this episode. Finally, the episode ends with everyone around the car as it blows up. Apparently Margaret did it, but we're not entirely sure who did it at this point. And the idea that the Night Stalker has been brought back to life from the devil. Like I keep saying, we knew that was going to happen. So guys, what are your thoughts on this episode? I really liked it for what it was, but at the same time, I realized that they're running out of story that they set up over the course of these first 5 episodes, and they're just really milking it. They're trying to get to the ending of this story so they can set up something big for the second half of the season. I'm totally for that, and I can't wait to be shocked and surprised again coming in the next couple weeks. So hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. It's been real.